We're here to sift through the sources and really get to the heart of things.
That's the goal.
And today, we're digging into Philippians chapter 4, specifically verses 4 through 9.
Right. A really well-known passage, often quoted about peace and joy.
Exactly. But the background is, well, it's pretty intense. Paul's writing this as a prisoner in chains in Rome.
Yeah, that context changes everything, doesn't it? It's not just some nice thoughts. It's like a strategy guide written from a really tough spot.
He's writing to a church facing huge problems, internal fights, external pressure, persecution even.
Massive destabilizing forces. So this isn't just encouragement, it's more like a survival manual.
So our mission today isn't just to read the verses. We want to uncover Paul's actual method here. How does he tell them to live the gospel? You know, to hold on when things are falling apart.
What's his system?
Yeah, how do you build that kind of mental strength from a prison cell?
And what we find is that Paul's instructions, rejoice, be gentle, don't be anxious, think nobly, they aren't just a random list. They function together. It's an integrated strategy, really, for keeping spiritually and emotionally stable. Each part supports the others.
Ah, interesting. Like building blocks for resilience.
Precisely. Resilience against chaos, both internal and external.
Okay, let's unpack this system then.
Yeah.
Starting with maybe the hardest one. Verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. That word always. That's the tough part, isn't it? It sounds, I don't know, unrealistic. Like demanding fake positivity when you're genuinely hurting.
It absolutely sounds that way. And we have to admit, it is hard. Life brings real pain, serious illness, losing someone you love, major disappointments.
Things that knock you flat.
Right. And Paul wasn't immune. He talked about his own anxieties for the churches, and, well, even Jesus wept. So this can't mean just plastering on a smile and pretending everything is fine.
So it's not toxic positivity. What's the actual difference then between this joy Paul talks about and just everyday happiness?
That's the crucial distinction. Happiness typically depends on circumstances, right? Things going well, getting what you want. It comes and goes.
Fleeting.
Very fleeting. But this biblical joy, it's presented as different. It's an intentional choice. It's rooted in something unchanging, the presence of Christ, regardless of what's happening around you.
So it's less about how you feel moment to moment and more about where you choose to anchor yourself. A decision.
A spiritual decision, exactly. It's a practice, not just a passive mood.
Okay, that makes sense. The word rejoice itself is a command, an action verb, before it's an emotion. It implies doing something.
You've got it. And like any practice, it gets stronger. Think of it like a spiritual muscle you need to exercise.
Right. We actually looked at a source with a fascinating experiment related to this. Salespeople.
Oh yeah, the smile experiment.
Yeah.
One group was told to actively practice a genuine smile when talking to customers, no matter their actual mood.
And the results were wild.
Weren't they? 3 to 10 times the sales target compared to the control group who just acted normally or even negatively. They made 0 sales.
Wow. So just the outward act, the practice of expressing joy, actually changed the outcome. It opened doors.
It shows how powerful intentional practice can be. It's about actively cultivating it. Like some sources suggest reframing things instead of I have to do this, thinking I get to do this.
Like seeing movement as a privilege, maybe?
Exactly. Or starting the day deliberately choosing joy. Maybe quoting something like Psalm 118.24, this is the day the Lord has made, I will rejoice. It's an act of will, choosing your focus.
Okay, so that's the internal foundation.
Yeah.
Choose joy based on Christ's presence. How does Paul connect this to the external problems, the fighting in the church?
He pivots immediately, doesn't he? Right after rejoice, he tackles the community issue head on. He addresses what seems like a disaster of division.
And he names names, Euodia and Syntyche.
2 women, apparently well-known leaders who had worked alongside Paul, but they just couldn't agree in the Lord. Euodia means sweet smell. Syntyche means friendly.
Oh, the irony. The ones named for pleasantness and getting along were the source of the conflict.
It seems so. And their disagreement, whatever it was about Paul doesn't give details, was serious enough to threaten the whole church's unity.
So he tells them, and everyone, to find common ground. And then comes the solution in verse 5. Let your gentleness be evident to all.
Or sometimes translated as sweet reasonableness. That's the key.
Gentleness. What exactly does that look like in this context? It sounds a bit soft, maybe.
Yeah.
Especially when they're facing persecution.
It's stronger than it sounds. It includes kindness, patience, graciousness, sure. But the core idea here is really forbearance.
Forbearance. Explain that.
It's about intentionally choosing to yield, To sacrifice your own rights, maybe your position, your pride, even your personal preference for a greater goal. In this case, peace and unity.
Hold on. Give up your rights. When you might feel like you have to fight for everything already, living under Roman rule, couldn't that just mean letting people walk all over you?
That's the tension, absolutely. It feels counterintuitive. It's not natural. But Paul frames it as a strategic choice.
Strategic yielding.
Yeah. Think about it. If everyone insists on every single right, every preference, what do you get? Constant internal conflict. That's actually more destructive than the external pressure.
So you give up a lesser right, like being right, in an argument for the bigger goal of keeping the community together.
You sacrifice your preference for the sake of peace. It's not passive weakness. It's an active, difficult choice to absorb conflict for the group's survival. Like Paul says elsewhere, it needs to be put on, like clothing. It takes effort.
Okay. And what gives them the strength or motivation to make such a difficult choice?
It's that little phrase tucked right in there. The Lord is near.
That's the anchor.
That's the anchor for everything here.
Yeah.
The rejoicing, the gentleness, the prayer that comes next. Knowing the Lord is close, whether that means his return is imminent or just that he's spatially present right there with them.
Makes it possible to let go of your own agenda.
It provides the perspective and the incentive. If God is near and aware, you can trust him with the outcome. You can yield your grievances.
That conviction leads perfectly into verse 6, the antidote to anxiety. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God.
And anxiety was a real issue for them, just like for us. The word itself, worry, originally meant to tear apart or to strangle.
You can feel that, can't you? That internal tearing, that suffocating feeling.
Absolutely. We found that analogy helpful. Worry is like revving a car engine in neutral.
Right. Lots of noise, burning fuel fast.
But you go absolutely nowhere. It's utterly counterproductive. It drains you.
Which is why Paul says, basically, stop it. An imperative command.
Stop worrying. And he immediately gives the alternative, the remedy, communication with God. But it's specific. It involves different facets.
3 parts, right? Prayer, supplication, and thanksgiving.
Yes. Prayer is about the relationship, adoration, communion, being with God. Supplication or petition is about asking, laying out your specific needs and desires earnestly.
But the real emphasis, the thing Paul adds that seems crucial, is the 3rd part, with thanksgiving.
That's the key ingredient. You make your requests with thanksgiving.
Why is that so important for dealing with worry?
Because worry locks your focus entirely onto the problem, right? Its size, its scariness. Thanksgiving forces a perspective shift.
How so?
It makes you deliberately recall God's past faithfulness, his character, his power, the good things you do have. You stop just staring at the mountain and remember who can move mountains.
It changes your mental viewpoint.
It's an act of faith overriding the anxiety. Like George Mueller said, the beginning of anxiety is the end of faith, and the beginning of true faith is the end of anxiety. Thanksgiving is where you practice that faith choice.
Okay, so you practice joy, you practice forbearance, you practice prayer with thanks. And what's the promised result? Verse 7.
And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus.
This sounds amazing, but also a bit abstract. Peace that surpasses understanding.
It sounds abstract until you remember Paul's immediate context and Philippi's. Philippi was a Roman colony, very proud of its military connection. Paul's likely chained near Roman soldiers, as he writes.
Okay.
So when he uses the word guard, the Greek is phoresis. It's not gentle. It's a strong military term.
Ah. So not just keep safe, but actively defend.
Exactly. Think of a garrison of soldiers assigned to protect a vital fortress or city gate. That's the image. This piece actively stands guard.
Guarding what specifically?
The 2 most vulnerable points to worry's attack: the heart, your emotions and center, and the mind, your thoughts. The piece acts like troops defending those inner citadels from fear, anxiety, and despair.
So it's an active defense system fueled by the previous practices.
Precisely. And it's a piece the world can't figure out. How can you be calm when circumstances are objectively terrible? That's the surpasses understanding part. It allows tranquility even when the problems aren't solved.
Okay, the mind is guarded. What does Paul tell them to put into that guarded mind? That brings us to the final instruction in verse 8.
Right. The focus shifts to mental content. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things.
That's quite a list. It sounds a bit like general moral philosophy.
It does, and that's likely intentional. Paul was a sharp communicator. Many of these terms, true, noble, just would have resonated strongly with the common Stoic and Greco-Roman ideas about virtue that were popular then.
So he's using language they already understand and respect, building common ground.
Exactly. He's leveraging shared knowledge. He's essentially saying, you already know what goodness looks like, what virtues are valued. Focus your minds there. It makes his appeal much stronger.
And it's not just about thinking these things, is it? There's an action component too.
Crucial point. Verse 9 follows immediately. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice. Think, Lodges ask, and do process.
He points to his own life as the example.
Yes. The truth has to be lived out, embodied, not just believed intellectually, especially for a community under pressure. Their actions, their unity, their way of life was the demonstration of the gospel's power.
Wow. Okay, so looking back at this whole section, verses 4 to 9, it really is a tightly integrated strategy.
It holds together remarkably well.
Let's quickly recap the main takeaways from this system. First, the joy isn't about circumstances changing. It's an intentional choice you make, rooted in Christ's constant presence.
Second, achieving unity isn't easy. It demands active gentleness, which really means forbearance, being willing to strategically give up your own rights or preferences for the sake of peace in the community.
Third, the way out of anxiety isn't just wishing it away. It's specific. Prayer and asking, but always combined with deliberate thanksgiving to shift your focus off the problem and onto God.
And finally, the result isn't just a vague feeling, but God's own peace acting like, well, a military guard. Protecting your inner world, your heart and mind, so you can then choose to focus on what's good and true and put it into practice.
It's powerful stuff, especially considering the source, Paul, in chains, facing an uncertain future, maybe even death.
He lived it. He was willing to be poured out, as he says elsewhere. He embodied the sacrifice he called them to.
So here's the thought to leave with you, the listener. Paul wrote this strategy for people battling internal division and external persecution. Their remedy involved these specific daily practices of choosing joy, yielding rights, praying thankfully, and focusing the mind. What about for you? In your life right now, maybe it's busy, maybe it's full of information overload, maybe it feels polarized. What does it practically mean to actively decide what you will think about and what you will do based on these principles?
How do you intentionally cultivate that kind of joy and guard the fortress of your own mind today?
That active decision, that seems to be the core of Paul's strategy for stability, something to really consider.